Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. We're live. Yes, we are live. Hold on, let me see if I can do the backdoor action again. Share music, computer sound only. And let me know if the music is too loud in the background too. I want it to set it, you know what I mean? But I don't want it to dominate. I've been packaging Etsy orders for a couple hours out in the garage, and I had this music playing before I started the video, and man, it's been holding it down. It's called The Spirit of Fall. Man, and it's just like The Spirit of Fall might be my favorite. I think it is my favorite. It is my favorite season. If the seasons had spirits, fall would be my favorite one for so many reasons. But before I start rambling, let me make sure that the live is actually live and direct. Welcome back, everybody. Zion Decadoria. You guys got some gangster ass names, man. Hilarious. Decadoria. Victorian. Yes. Shout out Gladiator. But looks like we're good. I made up that name since I don't like my original. It's Gangster. Nice. Well played. Well played. Sansa, all. Thank you, everybody, for jumping back. Turn down the music that's a touch. We can do that. It's pretty much as low as it can go. I don't know why it's. Hold on, let me try. Okay. Finding enlightenment during dark times. And it's so perfect because obviously we're going through some particularly chaotic times, you know, with the general state of things. But at least for me, you guys might be way ahead of me, but for me here in Southern California, today we all woke up and we're saying to each other, finally, fall is here. The wind is blowing, the leaves are blowing everywhere. Last night was the first night I've been cold, sleeping with the window open all year. I'm usually hot. So I caught the vibe. And so it's like fall, you're going into the darkness, you know, and a lot of people like spring because that's the beginning, that's the growth. But when I see spring, spring makes me feel like something just ended and something new has started. Whereas fall makes me feel like we've been going steady for a while and now shit's about to get real. Like now we're going to be tested for the trying times. How's that for your alliteration? Fall. Now we will be tested throughout the terrible and trying times of fall. And more or less. All right, let's just get into the video topic. Finding enlightenment during dark times. Also, if the music is too loud, let me know. Where shall we start? Didn't really have a script for this video. It was one of those things that kind of came with the wind this morning. Well, I've been watching this show on Netflix called Barbarian. And it's basically Rome versus the barbarians, who are basically all of the tribes to the north of the Roman Empire for the most part. All of Visigoth, all of them. The barbarians are the chaos. At least that's what we're taught. You know what I mean? Whereas Rome had the paved streets, flowing water with the aqueducts, and they had the Roman architecture, and they had writing and language and literature, and they were built on the Greeks. So that philosophy, you had Marcus Aurelius with this. People still practice his Stoicism to date, 2,000 years later. So Rome is like order, and barbarians were chaos. But as I'm watching the show, and you see the lives of the barbarians versus Rome, and it's like, yeah, the barbarians are surface level chaotic and depth chaotic. I get that. But it's interesting because the way their characters are laid out, it's almost as if Rome is terrified the entire time, because the success of the barbarians means chaos. But the chaos is, they're happy all the time. I feel like to sort of reach enlightenment during dark times, one must sort of accept the inevitability of the dark times. You see, Rome fought tooth and nail to make sure that its walls and borders stood up tight. Their fear was that they would be lost to time. Whereas the barbarians, they didn't have material possessions. They didn't have fancy temples. They didn't have fancy books. They didn't have fancy philosophies. They just hunted, they fought, they farmed, they made love, they raised families, repeat. You know what I mean? All they were used to was the chaos, in other words. And you can see that on the faces of the barbarians versus Rome. Rome's uptight. Extreme order causes extreme anxiety because everything has to be going your way all the time. And we know that the natural state of things is both order and chaos. So the joy that the barbarians are experiencing, despite being under Rome's control, etc., is like joyful. It's surprisingly at peace for how little they have. That's sort of what the darkness is, what the chaos is. It's things not necessarily having like material substantiality. Your life was the seasons. The Lord giveth, sort of, the gods giveth and the gods taketh away. And there's a peace in that. There is a peace one can find during the dark times that says, you know what, man, shit, some things are completely out of our control. And as a result, I'm not going to fight it anymore. And I think, I feel and I think that if you can hammer that sort of surrendering proper to the darkness, is where the enlightenment is found. I feel, you know what I mean? And that's what it means to find enlightenment during dark times, is to accept her, because the feminine is usually allocated to the darkness, to the chaos, and it's hard to make that leap unless you understand proper what the chaos, what the darkness is, which is just the etheric. It's just the stuff that it's just the pure potential of things, but not the actual things themselves as they are made manifest. Which is why for me I enjoy fall, which is why I enjoy going into the darkness more than I get from coming out of the darkness. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, so, or we'll say The Hobbit. Bilbo Baggins, Gandalf. If you don't know the story of The Hobbit, Gandalf the Wizard shows up to Bilbo Baggins' house. Bilbo Baggins is this proper, orderly, specifics on orderly, proper little hobbit who don't like unexpected guests, who don't like unexpected things, period. In fact, the first chapter of The Hobbit, I believe, is called An Unexpected Journey. Don't quote me. The whole point being order prevailed. But when you think about the book, if you read the book or really enjoyed the movies, the excitement of the adventure, of packing your bags and not knowing where the road will take you, that's chaos. That's dark times, when you don't know where the road is going to take you. You know it's going to take you somewhere. You have your goal set. You have your destination. You can fixate upon the Northern Star, absolutely. But what you're going to meet in between there, trolls, goblins, orcs, giant magical man bears, who knows? And that's, I said I would try to not be too cliche, but it is sort of that game of how you can play out the perspective, like glass half full, half empty type shit. It's if you see it as an adventure. There's even that really funny meme, like, I'm going on an adventure. He's got his bags packed, and that's all an adventure is. We're setting out on a quest. God knows what's going to happen along the journey, and that's the fun part. I think that's why everyone who's drawn towards the night or the chaos or the moon over the sun or over the fall is because of that mystery of the unknown. And that is a beautiful type of enlightenment, man. It is a beautiful type of enlightenment. And when I say enlightenment, I use that loosely speaking. It's not like, I don't mean it like I'm now enlightened and I'm going to ascend my physical body and I'm going to be seated in the stars amongst the gods. Like, not that sort of enlightenment, but the enlightenment that you get that come and go for 2 or 3 seconds at a time, but those 2 or 3 seconds last an eternity. When you see that flawless sunset, or you hear your child's laughter for the first few times, those sorts of things, like, I consider that enlightenment. As far as I'm fucking concerned, if you can nail a sensation like a flawless sunset or the laughter of your firstborn child for the first time, if you can manifest that sort of happiness on a daily basis, even if it's a few seconds at a time, that is my definition, loose definition of enlightenment. And if I nail that, by golly, my life is an utter success. Might not have used that word properly in that context, but we'll add it for contrast. So we'll say finding enlightenment during dark times is more seeking enlightenment during dark times, because most people, sometimes myself included, and I noticed that because I've been getting personal messages that are doom and gloom, and I'm like, all right, Keith, you should probably chill on the doom and gloom stuff because people are starting to bounce it back towards you. But it's true. Like when there's dark times, people are more apt to seek out um, validations for the existence of the dark times. They're more inclined to curse the darkness than to light a match. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you are light. You can't get away from that. You are light. So it doesn't matter how dark it gets. You are, in a way, your own sun. So it's like you can take your lantern into the deep, dark woods. You could turn it off. You could turn it on. You could light other lanterns with it. And for me, that's how I'm able to excitedly go into the depths of the dark, because I know that I carry a light with me and that I can turn it on if I need to. Or at least I strongly hope so. Oh, thank you, Smith. That's what it was. An Unexpected Party is the name of the first chapter. Yes, there you go. And it was the same concept. Bilbo was like, Gandalf, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing, man? You didn't tell me we were having a party. Not only did he have a party, he had a party with, was it 12s? 12s. That's funny. A whole bunch of dwarves. Loud, obnoxious, ate all of his food, made tons of noise. They called Gandalf Disturber of the Peace. That's what he was known as in the Shire, because he would bring fireworks for the kids and shit. And again, what makes that tale such a beautiful tale is the truth woven into it. Like I always tell you guys, any good book is going to contain these principles that we talk about all the time, because we gravitate towards those truths. We must gravitate towards them. And that's a perfect example. The whole reason An Unexpected Party happened was because Bilbo was such an expected young bloke. You guys gather, you gathering when I'm putting down? So, I know there's a lot of shit going on with the world, on both the worldly micro and the worldly macro. But we gotta learn to accept what we can't change. You know, like they say, grant me the no. How's it go? Something like, paraphrasing. Grant me the knowledge to change the things that I can, and the knowledge to know the difference of the things that I can't, or something like that. If you can fix it, fix it. If you can't, let that shit go. And that could be it. That could be finding enlightenment during dark times. Similarity to yeah, Bilbo sounds like the Romans. Well, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cosmic Eugenie. I'm glad it's helping you. Karen, I'm Rita Viveka, another epic name. I feel like your name is Karen is like a nice proper general American name. But then you're like, I'm Rita Viveka. I'm Rita Viveka. Darkness is the source of all light, and light the source of all darkness. But yes, darkness. One could say darkness is the source of everything. Darkness is the nothingness from which all the some things arise from. Thanks for chilling us on books. Krieger means warrior. And what language? What language? Krieger. There you go. Thank you, Michelle. To accept the things I cannot change and the wisdom to know the difference. Perfectly, yes. I feel like I have tons of those one-liners in my head, but they're not put together properly, so I can't ever use them. Like, oh, I've got one for this moment, and I can't. Anyhow, that's the one I was looking for, Sarah, was the God grant me. I was like, there's two. There's the God grant me the serenity, and then there's the one that Michelle shared. I had them both in my head. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Oh man, isn't that just the most fucking... I'm like starting to tear almost, you guys. That wasn't quite enough to push me over the edge, but I felt the tear ducts revving up. That's beautiful. Seriously, man. And that's like, that's fall. That's the chaos. You know, because we can accept the things that we want easily. We have no problem with the light. I think sun's great when things are in plain view. Like, I know what's gonna happen. You know, if I'm gonna get stabbed in the back, I see it. Et tu, Brute would have never happened, but but they do happen. So that quote isn't really about light and dark to me. That quote was mostly about the dark, because that's the one that our conscious minds have trouble picking up on. So that's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Double A prayer for the win. FT dubs. Thanks, Karen. I don't think it's me. I think it's this fall music I got playing in the background. I'm just like, long ago, there was a darkness that spread over the land like a disease. Till one day a hobbit realized he could harness the darkness, and grow from it. Sorry, I get carried away. I'm like the most LARPiest person who's never been to an actual LARP event that you'll ever meet. LARP stands for not the laser whatever LARP stands for, where they control the environment. I mean LARPing like live action role play. It's different ball game. Anywho, Cosmic, I'm glad it's helping it. All yin and yang, well said. Yin and yang. You know, here's not a fun fact, but here's a fun little thought exercise to work your noodle next time you guys think of polarity and yin or yang or light and dark balance, sort of thing. Look at and no one ever talks about it, or at least no one that I study with. See the little yin and yang symbol that all posted? Or just pull one up on your browser. I'll give you a sec. Pull it up. You got the dark on one side, and you got the light on the other, and then you have this swirl in the middle. A lot of people see that and they go, yeah, balance, light and dark. But what they don't necessarily point out is the two dots. How there's actually a dark dot in the light and a light dot in the dark. So it's basically, it's like, yes, there's polarity, and yes, there are opposites. But within opposites, there's the same thing. There is the same opposite within each opposite. There is light within dark, and there is darkness within light. It's not just polarity. It's this infinite spectrum along the way from one side to the other. And it's really only the conscious mind that sort of collapses that scale to a microcosm where you can make a useful definition of, okay, we're going to call this light and we're going to call this dark. You can say till the cows come home that there's no such thing as light or dark and they're the same thing, and like, yes, but remember the yin and yang symbol. You're both right and wrong at the same time. That's basically how the cookie crumbles on the yin and yang symbol. Yeah, what's that? I think, would you pull that straight out of the Kabbalion? Opposites are different in degree, but same in phenomenon. Yeah, that's perfectly said. Perfectly said. Have you seen that the yin yang is a 2D representation of a torus? Nice. No, I haven't seen that, but it makes sense. I would imagine anything that's 2D has a 3D version of it, now that I think about it. And I'm sure if you talk to the Arcturians, they'd be like, hey, Karen, did you know? Wait, no, who said that? They'd be like, hey, Apundo 3, have you seen that the torus, that the 3D torus is actually a eighth eighth degree phenomenon? I don't know. You get what I'm saying? But that's sort of the cool thing, is that everything tends to be a shadow all the way until you get back to source. And then once you get back to source, you're like, oh, okay, I have everythingness. I have oneness. And then you sort of bounce back, reverberate back out into the world so that you can start having experiences again. I'm sold that that's the reason why the third dimension exists. Because to me, oneness seems kind of boring. It's sort of infiniteness, and there's no variation because all things are existing. It's, you know what I mean? It's unfathomable. I mean, why else would we exist? Why else would the origin of thought sort of have this internal explosion of thought to create boundless universes with individual experiences in them? Why else not? Liven up the place. You know what I mean? To crank it up a notch. And it's hard to do that without individuality, aka the ego, aka separation. It's hard to have individual unique experiences in the microcosm when you don't have separation. And a proper understanding of the ego will get you there. It's like, on one hand, I fight with understanding the ego because on one hand, I think, thank fucking God that I can stumble upon something like a flawless sunset over the ocean and witness that for the quote unquote first time. Because if you're all knowing, all everything, then nothing's going to surprise you. And if nothing's surprising you, what's the fucking point? If you're not sort of like, if you're not, yeah, like, oh shit, that's right. Like we were talking about before, like those moments of bliss. That's kind of the whole point. And the harsh criticism that the ego gets from the spiritual community breaks my heart, because the ego is sitting there going, "You're welcome, you fuck. you're so welcome that you can even have a perception." You know, I don't know. I'm sort of personifying the ego. There's 1,000 definitions for the ego and for separation and micro versus macro, and I get that, but like I said, I'm trying to throw wrenches in there. I'm trying not to be too cliche with things. There's 1,000 different ways you can think of something, and quite a few of them are useful ways, albeit completely alternative ways of thinking about things that make more sense for the style of life that we're trying to live. And that's one of them for me. is reorienting my relationship with the lens that gives me my individuality to experience all the beauties and horrors of the world, which is the ego. And a proper relationship with that thing will give you a super proper, give you a proper ass life to live. It'd be nice. It'll be nice. It is nice. Yeah, not defile. I guess not defile. Not. I mean, you could worship. Why not? I mean, everything in existence is here to some degree. But instead of saying not to be worshipped, I would more so say it's not to be. You just have to understand that the ego is something that you possess, not something that you are possessed by. It's like your spark is coming from origin. We are created in God's image, if you want to go biblical. It's the ego's role to give us a unique image, a unique perception. And so, I mean, you can worship your camera lens. There's nothing wrong. That's all. Your ego is basically a different version of a camera lens that you would take pictures with. Like, it's fine to worship your camera lens as long as you know that you are not the camera lens. You are the thing looking through the camera lens, taking the pictures of reality. Yeah. So, like, yeah. I mean, you could. It's probably risky waters to worship the ego. I'd say your average person won't be able to pull that off in a healthy manner. They'll probably be consumed by it, because it is the thing that separates us from source. So to become, then that's why I say to not become the ego, is because if you become the thing that separates you from source, then you experience nothing but separation, because you are the thing that separates. But yeah. One having the play as if it were many to experience multiplicity in diversity. You're telling me that I'm poetic, Karen. You're the one dropping the one having the play as if it were many to experience multiplicity in diversity. Well said. I love when I ramble for like 5 minutes and then someone hits me with a one-liner that sums all of it up. Go team. Go team. Okay, so that's finding enlightenment during dark times. Shall we wrap it up? Shall we? Is it that time? Have we struck that time? Just sold something on Etsy. Let's see what it was. Ooh, sold some black candles. Ayana Dozier. I don't know if I'll be able to get these to you before Halloween, but I'll try. I really appreciate you listening. Thanks, Kelly. I messaged you back. You asked how to get a hold of me for the private stuff. For the private stuff, that came out wrong. For the private sessions, I emailed you back my email. I don't know if you sometimes YouTube gives me notifications when people reply to my messages, and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know if I'll just. You asked about private sessions, and there's my email. So I have to write the about me section on my .com. I'll write that when I get done with this video, and then you guys will be able to book private sessions through my manofletters.com website. But until then, my email works just fine. Ooh, we can't leave. We got a good question though, and there's 18 people watching with this question. So the God number's watching for the God question. Well played, Ashley Hyman. Your last name? Hopefully you didn't get too many jokes about that growing up. So it's a good question. Do you believe there is only one source or a possibility of more than one source? There are multiple dimensions. Uh, there's got to be one source. That's the whole point of using the word source. To say there's more than one source is a paradox. Otherwise, source wouldn't be source. And that's sort of the conversation that happens at the beginning of the Kabbalion. The Hermetic philosophy is the all is origin, and for anything to be outside of source means that it's not source because source is source. So absolutely, I believe that there is an origin that's one spot that's undefinable, because to define it by something else would say that there's something else and there's nothing else. So it cannot be defined. To define something is to say this is that. And to say that this is that is to say that it's not all these other things in existence. Because you like to say that source is this tape is to say, okay, what about the candle? What about you guys? What about my microphone? What about my laptop? There's a whole bunch of other things, so you can't. So no, it's not this. It's the origin of all things. Of course, there's multiple dimensions, and I'm not necessarily sure I can explain why there's multiple dimensions, but we're talking about mind. You know what I mean? That's think of how your mind operates. Think of how we were talking about Lord of the Rings earlier. Think of how Tolkien's mind operates. He created an entire world, different races. He created his own alphabet, grammar, and languages in a book. They have their characters with histories and their parents, their aunts and uncles, and like he created a world in his mind. And I'm sure if he would have lived to be 1,000, he would have created fucking 6, 7 more worlds, an infinite amount of worlds. So, of course, there's multiple dimensions. When you're dealing with mind, which we are, possibilities are endless. Possibilities are endless. Ooh, a copy of Smokeless Fire. Hey, it's fall, man. If you're gonna pick up a dark book to read, you might as well do it now. Smokeless Fire. I'm gonna write that one down. Maybe I'll follow suit. By who? Samantha? Is it by a woman named Samantha? No, it's by... Oh, it is. S. Ben. Isn't it interesting how it's the woman that spearheads the dark arts in this book you're bringing up? Which is dope. By all means is what I'm getting at. Extraterrestrials also come from source. Everything must come from source. Yeah, yes, Ashley Hyman, 100%. 100%. Everything that exists is just another version of source. Here's the thing, though. Here's where it gets interesting. All sentient beings are capable of being gods. The only difference is it's gods with a lowercase g. So, Ashley, you could come to the evolutionary point where you're speaking words and you're creating a world, and you yourself are creating bipedal humanoid creatures that call you God. That's completely possible, and I would argue that shit, we could even be that to somebody else at the bottom of the totem pole. So it's not like you're not going to run into something that you would call creator that's a separate entity that could be your God with the lowercase g. But as far as source, as far as origin, there must only be one. There can't be more than one source, otherwise source wouldn't be source. And that's the paradox axiom or something like that in Hermetic philosophy. I can't remember. Is trying to define the nature of that thing. Because, like I said before, to define it is to negate its very oneness. But yeah, all the entities, all the aliens, all the bad guys, good guys, Lucifer, Jesus, fucking Odin, Zeus, everything. Like all your thoughts, all your actions, all your emotions, all your everything's forever have all come from the same source. Shit, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan too, man. I've been deeper into the Harry Potter world more than Lord of the Rings. I think mostly because there's more literature for Harry Potter. 8 books for that series, and Lord of the Rings only had 3. Plus The Hobbit, so 4. But The Hobbit was kind of short. You could finish that in like a weekend. But I love Harry Potter too. But that's same thing. Same thing. All exactly. We create worlds all the time. We were created in God's image, right? Again, to go sort of Gnostic on you. And if Source creates with mind, then we create with mind. We just create sort of with a finite mind instead of an infinite mind. Ooh, I like that, Fire from Thaumaturgy. I have found that most people worship not the God, but the idea the God represents. This alone allows personal power and personal growth rather than following a textbook. It allows one to create their own path. Yeah. I posed that as a question, but it is indeed rhetorical. Yeah. Well said. Ashley, well said. Okay. It's 1. So I got to get back to packing my orders, eating food. This day is going by so fast already, man. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, I hope to hear from you guys. I hope to hear from you guys reaching out. And I hope we got the noodles cooking. I hope you ride into autumn if you haven't already. I'm on the late train in Southern California, like I said. I finally caught a heavy fall vibe today. But ooh, my brother's getting food too. I gotta text him before he goes. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you kindly for everything. And I'll see you soon. All right. All right, bye guys.